And this right here is a finite set. Remember we talked about finite set? And then when you had the graphs, we talked about infinite set of ordered pairs. Okay. That's a finite set. It's a finite set because I can count how many ordered pairs there are. How many ordered pairs are in this set? Four. Okay, so one of the things you have to do next Thursday is say this. What's a domain? How are you going to write it? First of all, what's the definition of the domain? Set of x coordinates. How many x coordinates do I see? Four. Now also keep in mind that, guys, if any repeats, you only listen how many times? Once. Okay, keep that in mind for next Thursday. You don't want to lose any points on a test. Okay? Now remember though, this is a finite set. So if you go back to your notes and if you go back to the videos from previous lessons, you'll remember that we got to put this as a brace. So some of you are showing me some of your homework that's due next week for this, and you're leaving the brace off. So don't lose any points, okay? All right, and you just list your x-coordinates. -2, what's the next one? 2, next one? 4, and next one? 6. All right, so that's your domain. The range. What's the range? What definition of the range first? Set of y-coordinates. How many y-coordinates do I have? 4. Okay, there are 3 distinct ones, right? Okay, so you can just list 3. Is this correct? 3, -3, and 5. You'll lose some points if you do that. What am I missing? The brace. Okay. All right. Then you're going to be asked, is this relation a function? Well, first of all, what's the definition of function? So I'm sorry, say it again. For every x coordinate, there can only be one y coordinate. Okay. And remember when we did the finite set, we used that mapping. It does help. So you have this mapping. So in your mind, or if you go off to the side and you figure this thing out. So this first point says that when x is -2, it gets mapped to what y value? 3. When x is 2, it gets mapped to what y value? -3. When x is 4, it gets mapped to what y value? 5. And when x is 6, and remember, you only list it once, right? When x is 6, do I list 5 again here? No. It gets mapped to 5. All right, based on that, is that a function? Yes. Some say yes, some say no. Those that say yes, you're doing good. What's the definition of function? For each y coordinate, there's only one. I'm sorry, for each x coordinate, there's only one y coordinate. Well, look at this. When x is -2, how many y coordinates are there? Just one. When x is 2, how many y coordinates are there? 1. When x is 4, how many y coordinates are there? 1. When x is 6, how many y coordinates are there? 1. It's a function. That's a function. It's okay for different x coordinates to have the same y value. You've got to use the definition of function. For each x coordinate, there's got to be what? One y coordinate. Is that the case here? Yes, that's the case. Look at number 2. What's the domain? In a brace, right? What else? I already have 0 listed. So it's just 3 of them, right? Y'all agree? 0, 1, -8. What's the range? 6 and 5. Okay. All right. So now the next question will be, is this relation a function? No. Yes or no?
No.
Okay, why not?
Because 0 has 2 y coordinates.
Because when x is 0, there are how many y values? 2. Use a mapping. Use this mapping. X, y. When x is 0, what's my y value? 2. When x is 1, what's my y value? 3. When x is -8, what's my y value? 6. When x is 0, listen once. What's my y value? 5. And then notice that when x is 0, I don't have just one y value. How many y values do I have? 2. So that's not a function. So it's not a function. It's not a function since when x is 0, there are 2 y values. Okay? All right, so you have to do your definitions. And then it helps, if you go back to your notes and if you go back to your videos, it helps to have seen it written as a mapping. This does help you. All right, now, look at this one. So these were a finite set of ordered pairs. Tell me something about how many ordered pairs are on this relation right here. An infinite set. So things are written differently. First of all, is this a function?
Yes.
Okay, how do you know that's a function? Okay, so say it again. Vertical line test. You use the vertical line test. So if and I'm not going to draw it here until at the end because I don't want to mess this thing up, but if you draw a vertical line, the vertical line intersects the graph how many times? Each. Just once. And it kind of makes sense by the definition of a function because for this right here, what's the x value right here? Can you see it? Yeah, what's this x value? 5. Right here. -5? When x is -5, how many y values do I get? Just one, whatever that y value is right here. So notice the same thing here. For each of those x coordinates, there are many y coordinates. Just once. So that's a function. Compare that with this one. Is this a function? No, that's not a function. Because it fails the vertical line test in a lot of places, in an infinite number of places. So for this x value 3 right here, how many y values are there? There are 2. There's this point right here. Y'all see it? And so when x is 3, what's this y value? Can you see it?
8.
It's 8. When x is 3, this y value is about -1.7 or 8. So, but the point being that when x is 3, how many y values are there? 2. You don't see how it's 2? Do you agree that when x is 3, I get this point and this point?
Yes.
You're telling me that those y values are the same y value?
No, they're not.
Okay, so now do you see why you see 2? Okay. All right. So if I draw the vertical line, it intersects that part how many times? Twice, which means that for that x coordinate, there are how many y coordinates? 2. For this x coordinate right here, there are how many y coordinates? 2. Automatically fails the vertical line test. So is this a function, not a function? It's not a function. Okay. Then we talked about this. So let's see if you can do this in your test next Thursday. What's the domain of this function right here? All right, so remember, if you go back to, if you remember what we did last class period, we used the idea that rulers to help us. So if I take a ruler or a pen, doesn't matter, just use something to visualize with. But so remember when we talk about domain, and that's the set of x coordinates, right? So we go along the x-axis. So you got to remember that this arrow keeps on going like this, right? So if this is -1,000, if x is -1,000, am I going to get a y value on the graph? Yes. -1,000,000, am I getting a y value in the graph? Yes. So this basically, we talked about the fact that this basically means that I'm going from -infinity all the way to what? +infinity. So that's your domain. Now remember, on My Math Lab, how's it going to look? What will it say instead of saying -infinity to infinity? All real numbers. Good. All right, that's what it's going to say. For us, though, in your worksheet, you have to write an interval. What's the interval? -infinity, comma, infinity. Parentheses, right? Remember with the discussion? So if you were not here, go back and look at the videos because there were some discussions about when do we use parentheses, when do we not use parentheses. There was a whole period on that. Okay, now let's talk about the range. The range is a set of what? Y coordinates. When we talk about the set of Y coordinates, I go along which axis? The Y axis. So instead of, you see how my ruler is situated? So instead of doing this, I'm doing this. So when I go along the y-axis, these arrows are pointing up, so that kind of helps us. So tell me where my y value starts. Right there. What's that y value? -9. Is there a maximum y value can tell me where it stops? No, because these arrows means it keeps on going all the way to what? Infinity. Now remember though, that for us, and there's going to be more discussion as to when is it open, when's it closed next semester. But for us right now, you see this point here? Is that a point that's on the graph? Yeah. So that means I'm going to use a bracket for -9. -9 comma all the way to what? Infinity with a parentheses. Because infinity, negative infinity is not a number, it's a concept. So we use parentheses. Yes.
What if the y-axis doesn't have like that endpoint where the number's at?
What now? I'm sorry, what now?
What if it looks like this and then your y-axis?
Well, what's the y coordinate? She's asking this. If it does this, guys, what's that y coordinate?
0.
It's the x-intercept. What's the y coordinate on the x-axis? 0. All right. Now let's look at this. What is the domain over here? Let's see if you can do this in your test. What's the domain? Domain. I think, yeah, okay, so look, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, -2, -3, -1, -2, -3, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So tell me now. Bracket -5, because that's where it starts, comma all the way to what? Positive infinity. Awesome. What's the range? See these arrows pointing down? This is pointing up. Negative infinity all the way to positive infinity. All parentheses, right? All right. So that was a quick review for your test next Thursday on this. Okay? All right. So don't forget, your test is next Thursday.